Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into literally one of the most cinematic redemption arcs in modern sports history. For nearly 2 decades, this franchise carried the crushing, exhausting weight of an 18-year trophy drought. We're talking a history completely defined by heartbreak, near misses, and just relentless pressure. But today, we are tracking a phenomenal psychological and tactical transformation. We're going to see how they turned an absolute defensive nightmare into championship gold. Think of this as a high-energy visual documentary of pure resilience. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, we have to start right here, on what was undoubtedly the darkest night for this franchise. The date is April 15, 2024. 287. Just let that number sink in for a second. In a T20 match, a team only has 120 legal deliveries to score, right? So to surrender 287 runs to the Sunrisers Hyderabad means giving up an average of almost 2.5 runs on every single ball bowled. It wasn't just a loss, it was a mathematical slaughter. In the fast-paced world of cricket, an innings like this is just a total, absolute structural collapse. I really want you to paint the picture in your mind and feel the atmosphere here. The M. Chinnaswamy Stadium is normally this compact fortress, right? It's usually pulsing with this chaotic, deafening noise. But on this night, it was plunged into a heavy, totally stunned silence. Imagine the body language of the players out there, hands on knees, shoulders slumped, just staring blankly at the turf, watching this absolute defensive nightmare unfold under the stark floodlights. It was a moment of sheer sporting trauma. But here's the crazy thing about sports. Sometimes absolute destruction is the exact thing required to build something completely invincible. And what makes this explainer truly fascinating is how this catastrophic moment didn't break them. Actually, it did the exact opposite. It instantly killed their old tentative defensive habits. They realized they had hit absolute rock bottom. And hey, when you hit the floor that hard, you have absolutely nothing left to lose. And that realization, it birthed a radically fearless, super aggressive identity. Because the spark of resistance wasn't just a whimper. No, it was a violent counterpunch. Instead of folding in that very same match, they attacked relentlessly. They actually managed to post 262 runs of their own, losing 7 batters along the way. And they were driven by this blistering 83 runs off just 35 balls from Dinesh Karthik, plus a fierce, lightning-fast opening stand from Virat Kohli and 5 2+. Now, did they lose the match? Yes, but they sent a terrifying message to the rest of the league. No target was safe anymore. And this fierce defiance? It launched a historic 6-match winning streak. Part 1. A masterclass in redemption. So the front office took all that raw emotional defiance from the pitch and completely weaponized it into a clinical operational blueprint. The formula? Aggression plus balance. Now, if you know T20 cricket, marrying these two concepts is incredibly difficult. Teams usually go all out and collapse, or they play it way too safe and just fall behind. But the management didn't panic. They didn't just go out and buy flashy names. Instead, they executed their 2025 mega auction rebuild like a perfectly played chess match. And this profound cultural shift, it started at the very top. They signaled a real long-term commitment by handing the captaincy to Rajat Patidar. Rather than relying on this revolving door of flashy international stopgaps like we've seen before, they deeply trusted a committed domestic core. They wanted homegrown Indian talent to lead the charge into this bold new era. It was just a massive vote of confidence, and it completely unified the locker room. Then, they went out and grabbed the exact missing pieces to flawlessly execute this fearless brand of cricket. Honestly, this wasn't some random shopping spree. It was precision engineering. They reacquired Josh Hazlewood to anchor the pace attack, bringing in sheer speed and bounce. They added Phil Salt to launch explosive first strikes right at the top of the batting order. They snagged Jitesh Sharma, a super aggressive wicketkeeper who could finish out the final overs with brutal power. And they brought in Krunal Pandya specifically for his ice-cold nerves and big-game temperament. Every single piece fit. Part 2. The Undefeated Road. Just to give you some context on the sheer momentum they carried into the 2025 season, we have to look back for a second at the immediate aftermath of that defensive nightmare. At their absolute lowest point in 2024, they rallied from a mere 1% statistical chance of making the playoffs. 1%. The absolute impossibility of that number basically became their ultimate underdog fuel. And they forged that defiance into absolute armor for 2025. The results were staggering. They secured a second-place league finish, racking up 9 solid wins out of 14 matches. But hands down, the most terrifying statistic for their opponents was their performance on the road. Undefeated. For the first time in franchise history, they marched into hostile territory, with literally tens of thousands of opposing fans screaming against them, and walked out victorious every single time.
Part 3, The Golden Glory.
All right, June 3, 2025. I want you to picture this cinematic climax vividly. The massive Narendra Modi Stadium. The air is thick with humidity and raw tension. You can literally feel the ground shaking from the deafening roar of over 100,000 fans who sense that accursed history is about to be completely rewritten. The atmosphere is pulsing. It is absolutely electric under those flashing stadium lights. Just imagine the striking silhouettes of the players standing resolute against that golden glow of the stadium. Batting first, under immense pressure, Kohli and Patidar anchored the innings, helping RCB set a massive total of 190 against the Punjab Kings. And look, in a high-stakes final, putting 190 runs on the board, that creates a colossal, incredibly intimidating psychological mountain for the opposing team to climb. But you know what they say, championships are won in the trenches. They're won on defense. And those clinical, tactical auction moves we just talked about, they paid off perfectly in the absolute clutch. Krunal Pandya stepped up with a suffocating, absolute masterclass bowling performance. He delivered a spell of 2 for 17, meaning he took 2 crucial wickets while bleeding only 17 runs across his overs. In a modern era completely defined by high scoring, it was an absolute chokehold that ripped the momentum away from Punjab, ultimately restricting them to 184.
Part 4, An 18-year wait lifted.
You can literally feel the high-octane visual energy of this exact moment, the explosive joy of the long-awaited trophy lift. We're talking confetti raining down from the night sky, grown men collapsing onto the pitch and gracing in tears. Think about what that razor-thin 6-run margin really means. They were essentially one swing of the bat away from total devastation, one swing away from returning to that dark night. But they held on. 18 grueling years of crushing expectations instantly evaporated into pure, unadulterated elation.
So if you take just one thing away from this visual journey, let it be this incredibly stark contrast. On one side, the dark night of April 15th, a defensive nightmare, a fractured team staring at structural collapse. And on the other side, June 3rd, a team bathed in golden glory, fueled by an unbreakable offensive identity. It is the ultimate story of a resilient squad that weaponized their darkest moment to forge a championship-winning soul.
As we leave you with the unforgettable image of their golden victory, we have to ask a much bigger question. Will the spirit of April 15, this phenomenal ability to turn absolute ruin into fearless aggression, become the new blueprint for modern cricket over the next decade? Well, only time will tell. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive explainer. Keep analyzing, keep learning, and keep your eyes on the pitch.